riders, welcome to another video. I'm still Michael from Maxxis Bike Rides, but you might notice that I don't have a beard anymore. Might have to pull this up so you recognize me, right? It's gonna grow out again, I promise. Today I thought we'd go and do a little bit of a bike check on the new rig, the new realistic dream build. I built quite a nice dreamy bike for a lot less money than I would have otherwise. If you want to go and check out the build video, you can click right there. It's gonna take you right over there, but not until you have watched this video, okay? So a while back I put together this Radon Cragger, and I thought we'd go through a little bit about the different choices of gear I put on it and why I did it and how it's been holding up so far. I've been riding for circa a month now with this new bike. So let's get right into it. So the frame then, well, I would have bought a new frame. I actually was looking at a Wrangler Big Al, but they were not in stock anywhere, and I couldn't really afford to shell out 5,000 crowns, $500 for 90 or whatever they are. So I found this. I had been eyeballing it a while. It's a Radon Cragger. The Geo was actually right at the sweet spot with a 65mm head angle, 73 C-tube angle, I think, and a kind of short chainstay. So yeah, and a bunch of other stuff that made sense as well. So I actually messaged you guys, since seeing that this frame had been for sale for like 2 months. I messaged the guy and say, I'm close by, I can come and get it. Would you accept 2,000 crowns? And he was like, yeah. So yeah, quite soon after it started creaking. I think there's a bad weld. I have messaged the retailer. I got the receipt and everything, so I think we can warranty it. I'm awaiting a response right now actually. So I think actually to speak about how the bike actually rides, we can go over to Riding Michael, and he can tell you a little bit more about that. Over to you, Michael.
Ah, buddy. Thank you, Stationary Michael. Yes, what do I think about this bike in total then? Well, I think it's a very nice bike. I enjoy it a lot. It is, as the reviews say, that it's a little bit stiff in the rear. It does kind of beat you up. And adding my Enduro, my E1900 rear wheel, that's not a very supple wheel. So a nice tire pressure is in order for it to become a more better ride. So this bike does make sense for me, since a lot of what I ride is this: up and down, flat terrain, a lot of routes. But I also want to be able to go to the bike park and do some party laps, ride some chunk. But that's like a couple of times a year. And the bike is good fun for that stuff as well. But yeah, kind of climbs like a goat. But I don't, as you can hear.
So what about the cockpit, I hear you ask? Well, it's a well, what is it? I went with a Truvativ Hussefelt stem. It's a 35mm stem. I had it since before, so I just went with it. I think it's working out really good. I think there's a 50mm stem on this bike when it comes pre-built, and then I think it's 760 bars. I haven't measured them. I purchased them off a friend. They're Spank bars. I think that they are very stiff. I don't know. My experience is that they're a little bit stiff, but like their handlebars maybe a little bit more supple wouldn't hurt, but you know, what can you do? Yeah, and Ergon grips. I had the Ergon grips since before as well. Only thing I can say about the Ergon grips is that they cannot be ridden without gloves, because my hands get sweaty and then they get slippery and I feel like I'm gonna lose the handlebars at any second, and that's not very comfortable. That's kind of scary actually. The brakes are, I was gonna go with a 180 rotor in the front and a 160 in the back, because that's what I had. Now I realized that the screws were too long and I couldn't find the right screws, so I thought, wait a minute, if I use the spacer and put on a 203mm rotor instead, would that be better? Yes, it would. Everything worked out and I got a big rotor up front and a 180 in the back, so I put the old front rotor in the back now, so that worked out pretty good. These are XT discs Icetech. They grip like crazy. It's the metallic pads, sintered or whatever they're called, and SLX calipers and brake handles. And these are 2-pot and I have never had an issue with them. They came off my old bike and no real use in replacing them, I think. Okay, so this is a all black Rockshox 35 gold fork, and with black stanchions, looks really good, really sleek, and I quite like it. But this is actually the fork that comes on the 7.0 build of the Radon Cragger. So, but I bought this second-hand off a Santa Cruz bike or something. It's a 150mm, so the bike is a little bit over forked as it is right now. It's been riding super good. I think we're gonna go over to Riding Michael to see how it handles. So over to you, Michael.
Yeah, stationary Michael. This is Riding Michael. The front fork. And it took some fiddling, but I think it's doing a kind of good job right now. But before I got it like dialed, it took a while. So I have a whole lot of slope speed compression damping, 1 click from locked out, and kind of slow rebound. And I think it's doing quite a good job. What I would be a little bit hesitant towards is the small bump compliance. I guess a better fork would be more supple over the small stuff. Also, I will tinker a little bit with the volume spacers in the air spring. I think that could make quite a difference.
The dropper post then. Well, this is a BrandX Ascend dropper post 170mm, and with the facts on hand, maybe I could have gone with a 200 and still had room for it. But I don't like to be right on the verge. It has a very short C-tube, which I like with this bike. So great angle. This dropper post has held up really good, no problems with it. I like it a lot. The lever is a little bit flimsy, but I can live with that for now. No real issue. 170mm, plenty of drop, leaves a lot of room for my butt to move around. The seat is actually off my old bike. I never really gotten around to try out a new seat. It's very important because I sit a lot on it, but I never really get around to buy one. I don't really know what I would be looking for even. So if you have any tips on a good seat for a big butt, hit me up. Over to the next part. So I think we'll talk a little bit about the wheels and tires. I went with my DT Swiss wheel because I had it since before, and I bought that wheel to be able to put it over onto a better frame, Boost 148 frame that this is. So that turned out really good. It's a heavy wheel, but it's a very durable wheel and I'm happy with it. It could have better engagement. Yeah, I bought a new front wheel because I needed a 115mm spacing front wheel. So I went with the DT Swiss. I couldn't get a hold of the E1900, so I went with a M1900, which is a little bit not as wide. Inner diameter is 25 instead of 30, and a little bit lighter. It's a more of a standard MTB wheel, so to speak, but it's been holding up good so far, no problems. So those are the wheels, but what about the tires? Well, in the rear I have a little bit less of a knobbly tire. It's a Maxxis Forekaster. It's the 6th TPI, I think, so it's a little bit thinner. I'm running tubeless, of course, no problem with that, and it's actually got quite a good grip actually. It's not like a Minion or anything. I don't know that I will be riding this in the slop in the winter, but so far so good. This ride has been kind of loamy but kind of wet in some places, and it's been holding up very well, so I think it's gonna be no problem. Up in the front then I have a Maxxis Minion DHF front tire. It's more knobbly because especially on a hardtail, you want grip in the front, not the back. This is where all the braking happens, this is where all the steering happens, so if you want to have grip somewhere, it's on the front. But yeah, over to the next part. Drivetrain then. Yeah, I kept my AdventX derailleur and shifter and cassette, and it's been working out super nice. I'm really happy with it. And once again, we're going to go over to Biking Michael, and he can talk a little bit about the experience riding with this drivetrain.
I have some things to say about the longevity of the AdventX derailleur. It does seem to skip a beat every now and then. And I don't think it's up to adjusting, because I have adjusted it quite a few times. And it's in the middle of the range of the cassette. It's a little bit untrustworthy. But otherwise the shifter is nice. The derailleur does its job. And yeah, a bit heavy. The rear cassette is a bit heavy. Coupled with my heavy rear wheel, it's quite a lot of mass to move around. But I'd rather have a wheel that holds up to a beating and is a little bit heavier than having a wheel that's super light.
As of the crankset, I went with what I already had. It has been a little bit of a hustle and bustle because this frame has press fit for reasons, and my crankset was apparently a GXP crankset, and that's an old standard they have dubbed now. So I have been able to find a Shimano 24mm bottom bracket that works with a spacer. For now it's working, and it's not making any noises. This is the frame making the noise, and it's holding up. And the pedals, they're usual Shimano pedals. They work very well. I would maybe like a little bit of a platform, but that's like, I won't replace these until they need replacing, and they work out very well with my shoes because my shoes are kind of hard in the sole. Hard in the sole, that's like me. It's a 30-tooth chainring, so I'm riding a 30-to-48 ratio, and that's a really light gear in the back, and I'm kind of happy with the gear ratio in steep hills. So it's time to wrap this up. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please leave a comment and tell me. Maybe get some inspiration for your own build. That would be super nice if I could inspire someone else. Anyway, if you'd like to see more of my experiences with this bike and where it takes me, make sure to subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, of course, like the video, and just, you know, have a nice time. And I'll talk to you soon again. This has been Michael from Mike's Bike Rides. Bye for now.